We've got Stefan Verstappen now joining us now. We're going to be talking why cities are death traps. Why cities are a death trap. And thanks so much for joining us again, Stefan. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Eric.
Yeah. Wherever you, first of all, how you been? How are things going on up there? And wherever you want to begin. Feel
Well,
free.
well, things are going good here. Our community is coming along very nicely. It's growing all the time, and they're doing good things. We had a radio test a couple of weeks ago whereby all those that had ham radios, and we're spread out. We're out in the rural countryside, right? Small towns. There's like half a dozen small towns that we all come from, and they're separated by about 30 kilometers or 25 miles. So we did a radio test to see everybody that had a ham radio, how far we could reach out to each other, because we have a plan that if I can only reach out 10 miles, then one of my team members that lives 10 miles away that has a ham radio can pick me up, and then he or she can broadcast another 10 miles and reach the other community further out. And so this is a way, we've talked about this before, Eric, like when the grid goes down, we need to have our own communication system. No internet, no cell phone, no telephone, no radio. So the only thing that's going to work is ham radios, and then you have to be able to figure out what frequency you're going to speak on, and how far you can reach with your antennas. Now, the head of the communications team, because I recommend everybody form teams, medical team, nourishment team, gardening team, and of course communications and security. Communications and security, we are sort of going hand in hand. We got our security people, but they're also this communications, because if we can't reach the security team, there's no good. What's the use in having a security response group? Anyways, so he's got a larger antenna. He's got a 40-foot antenna on the top of his house. He was able to reach out 25 miles, so that pretty much covers the entire territory that our community operates in. And I think we spoke about this before, that when you form a community, you need to make sure that all the members are within a 20-mile radius. Now, I say a 20-mile radius because that's how far the average person in good shape can walk in a day. And 20 miles is tough. It depends on the terrain. If you're going up and down hills and mountains, then 10 miles. But
Yeah.
but at least, if worse comes to worse, you got no gasoline, you're running out of food, and maybe you have people that are sick and injured, you got to go to, one of your team members, part of your community, to pick up food or medicine, then at least you still have a chance of getting there by walking. So the same thing is, we have a community. They're spread out a little bit further, about 25 miles, but still we can reach everybody in the community using our ham radios. So that's one thing that we accomplished, and also, actually, they've accomplished. Our group has accomplished a lot in the last couple of months. I'm really blown away. We've got, in addition to the Grow Co-op, whereby everybody joins in and tends the gardens. So they have 3 gardens spread out over 25 miles. Greenhouses, and also my good friend Dixie started a food co-op business, a bag and box business, whereby we buy produce and whatever you need, anything you can get at the grocery store, we source from the local farmers. They have a distribution outlet, so you can get everything, vegetables and honey and beef and eggs and chickens and so, we are working really hard to becoming self-sufficient, sourcing all our food locally. So I'm very proud of the community. It's doing good, and like I said, we did the communications test. It's still early on. We haven't mastered every aspect of communications, but it's a start. And that's what I recommend everybody's got to do. If you don't belong to a community now, stop listening this very moment, put on your jacket, get out, and join a goddamn community, because you won't survive without one. What are you going to do all by yourself in the dark? Nobody to talk to, nobody to help you. You're not going to survive. That's why I've been, preaching community and organizations, because really that's the key to survival.
Yeah, we actually didn't talk about this off air, but like in years past, when I've thought about starting my own community here, and I always thought that that was like sort of the end, like kind of goal of this, because like you said, cities aren't going to be safe. Not even, I'm going to argue like I'm sort of like half suburban, half city here kind of thing. But like everyone around me, for the most part, gets it and is like not going to go along with the B system. So at least we'll have that. But it's still, I know it's not going to be safe long term. So in any case, I'm actually looking at with some other investors purchasing land here about 25 minutes away. There's like 40 acres, 3 big lakes, a house on it. And like I'm in the early stages, kind of feeling it out. But it's like one of those things where like now the ducks are starting to line up. You know what I mean? It's almost like every day you can kind of see fruit behind it. So you kind of see God leading in that path. I mean, I don't want to say it's still a little bit too early right now, but hopefully maybe soon we'll have a good chunk of land and TradCatKnight members can come and start building, and we can have a homestead basically, type of thing. So we'll see how that plays out. But in terms of your talk today, why cities aren't safe? Are you want to do like some bullet points, or how do you want to proceed with this? Just
Well, I'm just going to bullshit off the top of my head. You know me.
That's all right. Hey, we like bullshit, right?
And I commend your plans. Do it as soon as possible. I did a podcast last week, and before I did the podcast, they sent me questions that they wanted me to answer. And it was a big, long, detailed list of questions. And there was a couple of questions. They said, what about water, and what about sewage? Now, we have never covered sewage in our...
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Right? So I took a deep dive into it. I started researching it, and it was then that I realized, oh my God, because normally my advice to people is shelter in place. We've talked about this before. You're better off just being prepped and staying where you are rather than, running away to the countryside or going to Costa Rica, whatever people have in their minds to do these days. And I've always maintained that me, personally, I can survive in any environment. So if I was stuck in a city, I would still be able to survive because, well, I'm cunning and I'm ruthless. I'm changing my mind on that. If you're in a big city, you will die. I'm sorry, you got to get out of there. And the reason for that is because I did the deep dive into water and sewage. And, during a disaster, a natural disaster, you're not... The most likely cause of your death is going to be waterborne pathogens. You're going to get sick and die from the water. This is the most common cause of death during wartime, during famines, during social collapses, because people are going to get sick and they're going to die and they're going to contaminate everything around them. And that's why I realized, oh my God, the cities really are death traps. And so let's talk about water first of all. Here in Toronto, when you go downtown Toronto, there are hundreds of high-rise condominiums. They're building like 50 of them a year. There's no end to it. Everywhere you go, they're building another high-rise condominium, 50 stories, 60 stories, 80 stories tall. The pack 'em and stack 'em condominiums. The entire downtown of the city, and I think we have like 5 million people here, is almost all condominiums. If you live in a condominium in downtown Toronto, you have to make a getaway plan. Like I said, normally I say shelter in place, but there is no way to survive what's coming living in a 50-story building in the city. No way to survive this. Impossible. So that's why I've changed my approach on this. You got to get out. Now, if you can get out now, like what you're trying to do, Eric, and I know you're in the kind of the suburb rural area, and still your chances of survival in that location is pretty good. But if you're in a downtown high-rise apartment, seniors building, condominium, there is no surviving that. No. There is no surviving it. Now, we can do your best to prepare so that you can maybe last a month, let's hope, maximum. Probably you could last a month. But there's almost no way you can prepare for that, and there's no way you can survive. And the number one reason is water. The average person needs a gallon of water per day, and that is minimum. So that's a half a gallon of water for drinking. That's a quarter gallon of water for cooking, You're making soups or noodles or spaghetti and that. And there's a quarter gallon of water a day for hygiene, which means, you're just going to get a sponge bath. Now, let's say you've got 5 people, you're living in a condo. Well, let's make it easy. 3 people, you're living in a condo. So you're going to need minimum 3 gallons a day. Now, when you live in a high-rise building, when the power goes out, you will have water for maybe 2, 3 days, and then no more water. So now how are you going to get water? You need it. I mean, we know from the rule of threes, 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, and you're pretty much dead. You'll live for a week, okay? But after 3 days, you won't be able to function. You won't be able, the splitting headaches, and you'll be weak, and you'll probably succumb to some sort of illness. So 3 days without water. So number one, if you're living in the city, or no matter where you live, doesn't matter, you got to store right now 3 days worth of water minimum. I would go for a week. I've got a week's worth of water for me, right? So if there's 3 people in your family, that's a gallon per person. That's 3 gallons for a week. That's what is that? 21 gallons of water. That's what you're going to need to store, and you need to do that now, because what happens is when the water goes out, and now you have to try and source water locally. And now most cities are built around, a river or a lake. And so probably, like certainly here in Canada and the northeastern United States, you can't go 2 miles without coming across water. Okay, fine. But now you got to haul that water back to your apartment or to your house. And water is very heavy, 10 pounds per gallon. So let's say for 3 people, you have to haul back 30 pounds worth of water every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day. Now, let's say you live on the 20th floor of your 80-story apartment building. You have to now carry that 30 pounds of water up 20 flights of stairs. I hope you're in good shape. I hope.
Right.
Right?
No, that's what I've been doing, man. The last month, I've rededicated myself to health and fitness, man. Eating again every every 3 hours, eating, working out. I go up to the track at night and do cardio for an hour every night. So yeah, I know. I mean, we got to get ready now, man. It's got to be in the best shape we can.
Yeah, me too. I've been doing as much exercise as I can. I'm doing a lot of bicycling, exploring the countryside. Yeah. So, but imagine you're a retired couple living, in the city downtown. You're going to carry 30 pounds of water up the stairs, 20 flights, 30 flights, 50 flights. I mean, you're not going to do that. You'll be dead by the time you're done. And you have to do this every day. So that's the number one reason why cities are death traps. You won't be able to get water. And then even just hauling the water. Okay, let's say I live downtown Toronto. I've got Lake Ontario. It's about 3 miles away. All right. So I go down to Lake Ontario and I fill up, 3 gallons of water. How are you going to drag that back? Hopefully, you have a car. Hopefully, there's gas. Hopefully, there's, But if you have to carry that, and we're assuming that you're going to have to carry it back, that's why I also recommend for people to get a good cart, like a wheelbarrow, 2-wheeled cart, like a garden cart, so that you can, carry 150 pounds worth of material in the cart, and you can pull it. I have a trailer that I use behind my bicycle. It's worth its weight in gold because I can carry a lot of stuff behind my bicycle, but I can take the trailer off and just push it or pull it, right? So here's the problem, you got to, and God forbid you have a family of 5. Now you're looking at 50 pounds of water a day that you have to drag for 3 miles through the city and then carry up 20 flights of stairs. I mean, you can't survive it. That's why I'm saying if you're in the city, it's a death trap. Now, I know we're almost out of time. We're going to keep it short today. So first of all, everybody, please, 1 week's worth of water. And we're not even talking about purifying the water. I'm saying 1 week's worth of water because when the power goes out, you won't have water. All the water in these buildings are pumped up using electrical water
Great point.
pumps.
Mm-hmm.
And once that goes, then you're done. And then you're going to have to carry all this water yourself, and drag it, and then you're going to have to purify it. You don't want to do that on day one of the power outage. Okay?
Right.
That's why, store a week's worth right now. Make sure, long-term storage water. I keep all my water under the sink. I've got 15 gallons. I'm good. But because if the power goes out and now you don't have water, and remember, you need water every day, or otherwise you will die. So on day one that the power goes out, are you going to have the wherewithal to hike down to the river, hike down to the creek, hike down to the lake, carry back 50 pounds worth of water? Look, it's a big deal. So give yourself some breathing room. And by breathing room is a week's worth of water so that you can spend the next 2 days planning your strategy and you still got water. But then after that, you're going to get busy. Okay, the other thing that is a problem is waste disposal. The average person produces 2 pounds worth of feces per day. Now, where are you going to put that? You see, when everything's working, you can flush the toilet because there's water coming in. If there's no water coming in, and most toilets are gravity fed, so that's okay. You don't need electricity to pump the water out, but you need the electricity to pump the water in to flush the toilet. So if you want to flush the toilet, you better get another gallon of water a day. So now we're up to 50, 60, 70 pounds of water a day that you need to source and bring in. And what happens when, especially if you're in a high rise, people are, using the toilet, but they don't have the water to flush it. How many days will it be before the pipes become stuffed, become plugged? Now you can't get rid of the feces. So what you're going to have to do, there are things you can do. You can take a heavy-duty garbage bag, make sure there's no water in the toilet bowl, scoop all that out, and then put a heavy-duty garbage bag and then put the seat down over top of it. Okay, you can do that. I've had to do that. Let me tell you, it's very unpleasant to throw out 5 pounds of sewage every day in a garbage bag if you have a place to put it. Now, if you're living in the countryside, you can dig a latrine, you can dig an outhouse, or what they call a cat hole, which is an 8-inch by 8-inch hole in the backyard. You throw the feces and the sewage in there, then you cover it up. I mean, how long before your entire backyard is covered in holes filled with
Can I run my idea by you? Now,
Yeah, go ahead.
I might be missing like some loopholes here, and I realize it's probably not the best situation. But I mean, I got enough food, water, and all that stuff for like 5+ years easily, if not longer. But when I started thinking about that, I obviously will have something outside, like an outhouse, and then what I got was incinerators to burn it. And I realized you're going to want to stay like far away, as far away as possible. But that's what I thought. That's the only thing I could think of, because I was like you. I was like, oh, I can't dig holes here. So I bought these incinerators up on Amazon. I was like, I'll burn it. I'll just burn it out.
Sure, that's what the U.S. military did. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. Unless you could think of something better, I couldn't.
well, I have come up with an alternative, and that is a compost toilet.
Oh, okay, yeah, like with worms or something. Yeah, yeah.
No, not worms. So
Not
compost
worms.
toilet is one that they use in RVs, okay? And what it is it's a toilet, but it has 2 tanks. So, guys have to sit down if they're going to go take a pee, right? And when you sit down and you flick this lever and the tray comes out and you pee, so all the urine goes into one tank. Now, urine is easier to dispose of. It stinks more, but it's easier. And it's not a risk of spreading diseases, because urine is a sterile solution. You can drink urine. You can use it to wash out an open wound. So the urine is not a big problem. It's the feces. Now, if you're going to go number 2, then you flip the switch or the lever on the compost toilet, and then it opens up to the main body. And in there, what they put in there is corn husks. No, shredded coconut husks.
Hmm.
They come in dried bricks, right? I think that's typically what they use. And then you have to kind of take a brick and you stick it in there, but you got to break the brick apart, right? And fluff it out. And sometimes cedar chips or cedar chips. And then the feces goes in there. And then when you're done, then there's a little crank on the side of the toilet. You crank, and then this causes an agitator to mix up everything in the main tank there. And apparently, from what I've read, but I can't verify it because I've never used one, it will last two people a month before you have to empty it out.
Hmm.
But if you don't have that, and you're in a high rise, and you're using the garbage bag method, you got to carry that. In addition to carrying 50 pounds of water up the stairs, you also have to carry 30 pounds worth of sewage
Right.
down the stairs. And then where are you going to dispose of it? You see, it's the sewage that spreads all the diseases: cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and it's those diseases that will kill you faster than anything else. So this is the problem of living. And so if you're in downtown Toronto and you're surrounded by, 20, 30 high-rise apartments, they theoretically, of course, this is never going to happen because it will all fall to pieces and people will escape to the countryside in droves as refugees. But let's say they did all figure out how to dispose of their sewage. You're looking at like 30 tons of feces deposited where?
Right. Exactly.
In the
Yeah.
in the garbage containers, in little holes in Central Park.
It'll be like poop wars. People slinging poop over each other's backyards or something. I don't know. It's pretty get gross. But yeah, I mean, the other area, reason why I mentioned bird flu there earlier was because I do think they're going to try to lock us down again. And considering everything that you said, if you can't get out when the checkpoints are set up or whatnot, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean,
Hmm.
you're going to be locked down. That's what I've always thought about 10 years ago. I've come to that premise, and then I started going through all the possible problems I could have, coming up with all the solutions,
Yeah,
and then knowing what you just said. The ultimate aims, and this is what Catholic prophecy also indicates, like when the Antichrist shows up during the Great Tribulation period, we're all headed for the hills, no matter what.
yeah,
There is going to be no safe place outside of caves, dens, mountainsides. That's it,
yeah.
and we're all going to be on the run. So
Oh yeah. So
yeah,
my final
so
advice then is, if you're living in the big city, okay, look, prep. Get a week's supply worth of water, minimum, right? And get lots of extra garbage bags. Buy lots of chlorine because you want to kind of disinfect everything you can because you want to prevent disease. And it's sewage that creates most of the disease. And but you have to plan for a bug out. You can't stay there long term. If you do everything right, okay, maybe you can live a month in the high rise. Maybe you can live a month in your condominium. Maybe. But eventually you're going to have to get out of there. So my advice is, if you can now, and I know how hard this is, because who's got the money to suddenly pack
mm,
everything up and move? I don't have the money to do that, but thank goodness I'm already in a small town, so I'm not that worried. And I already have a community. There's people I can go. I can go live on the farm with friends. But if you're in the city, if you can't get out, then certainly make a bug out plan, all right? So get prepped, get lots of water, lots of disinfectant. Also, you better buy some of things that you can carry water with, those big 5 gallon camping containers that, for camping for hauling water. Better get a cart to haul it in. And, but make sure you do have a plan to escape once all your resources run out sitting in the city. So call your friends, call your relatives, call your family, anybody that's out in the country, and see if you can go and stay there when things get rough. Make your bug out plans now. So be prepared, water, food, and all that, great. But know that if a power blackout lasts for longer than 2, 3 weeks, you will have to leave the city. You can't stay. The logistics are against you. The water, the sewage, the disease, and when never mind the crime and the looting and all that. You're still going to have to deal with that too. But just from the logistic point of view, water and sewage, you can't survive in the city for more than a month. So if you can't get out now, then make plans to get out. That's your bug out plan.
Hmm. Wow, good stuff, Stefan. Before we let you go, let's. What can we help you promote this month? I know he's got a bunch. What can we help you promote this month?
Well, my survival library. My God, this is such a valuable deal, and over 300 books on every aspect of survival and rebuilding civilization from the ground up. And there's about 30 books on water purification and how to build latrines and how